everybody, how's it going? It's the Fuzz. It's time we talk about the upcoming buff patch. Now, of course, this is not really a surprise considering that the campaign cards have been pretty insane, just dominating the meta pretty much and making their way into like every conceivable deck. So it's not a surprise that some of them have to be tuned down. But while we're at it, we can take this opportunity to buff some other cards. Now, I didn't list every single card I'd like to see buffed, just a couple favorites, because this would be a huge list with way too many cards. I mentioned most of these in my give some aspect some love. I had that series of videos for all the 6 aspects. That's where I go into more detail with these cards. For this one, I just picked out a few favorites. So these 15 cards, some of them are from the expansion that I think need to be tuned down, and some are current existing cards that need to be either buffed or somehow changed. So let's just get going. So Trigon of the Pact. I actually had 2 issues with this. I think you should just choose the aspect. I feel like getting a duel is just incredible. I mean, it lets you play kind of like 3-color decks almost without even going up very many aspects. Like, imagine you play 2 of these at the start, and you go like Order Nature, Order Wisdom, and you've got 2 aspects, and you can play such a wide variety of cards. Whereas if you just picked one aspect, it would still be useful because you just use the Trigon to fill whatever aspect you're missing. But this is more like a secondary thing. The main thing is that buff that Trigon also gives you, +1 attack, health, and speed. It actually ends up being probably just a little bit too good. Cavalry Field Captain buff, but persistent, is insane. So probably just cut off the speed at the end of that. That way it's a shrine that's good, but you can't draw a card with it. But you can still play it as like an okay card, right? Like it's a +1/+1, it's whatever. But it's like not bad, right? But with the speed, it's just a great card in every way. And I think it's a little bit too much. And of course, this is going to go for the evil shrine as well, whatever that may be. Mr. Ulric, unsurprisingly making a big impact. Main problem with this guy is that when you protect your creatures, they're basically just unkillable. They cannot be targeted, they cannot be damaged, and they get extra attack. On top of that, this stays through the enemy turn. So if you just activated the hero power, got 2 free trades, your opponent then can't do anything to your board. You can also use this to preemptively prevent things like Holy Radiance. So with this one, you could either make the effect not last through the enemy turn, or just tune down the effect. Like, remove the 1 attack, and maybe remove the can't be damaged, or remove the protected, so that's not as insane. Probably just make it buff up on your turn only, so that you basically use it as like a kind of like Hermelian. You have a board, and you get a lot of value out of it, but then on their turn, it's not as insane. Though, to be fair, I kind of like the ability for this to be more flexible, where because the protection stays through the enemy turn, you could just play 2 guys and buff them with the hero power, and they'll still protect you. So that way, the hero power is not just win more, it's also a more defensive one. So I'd actually be more in favor of making the initial ability less powerful, like cut off the 1 attack as a start, so that it's not as ridiculous, right? And then we'll see where we're going. Maybe it should cost 3 mana, possibly? Possibly at 3 mana as well. Anyways, that's it for Mr. Ulric. Holy Radiance! Oh my god, what a big surprise that this card is insane. I really like the first effect. 1 damage to all enemies is pretty good. But the second effect, the main problem is that you can play it when you have a big board, and you're basically preventing the enemy from playing a board back at you, because this will just go off, right, and kill most of their stuff. So there's many ways to go here. You could make it deal damage to the whole board, 3 damage to everything, including your stuff, though in that case it should probably be more expensive. Or make it the only 2 damage, but I like the idea of this being like a delayed board clear. But it probably should be more expensive. Being able to play this on turn 2? Come on. But I think this is a step in the right direction in terms of board clears in general. Just tune it down a little bit, goodness me. So Word of Grace is on this list because I'm starting to have a serious issues with these 40 life gain decks. There's just more and more of them, and all they ever do is bring more salt and cancer to the game. I don't remember who said it, but basically they said, if there's some way to exploit new cards to gain 40 life, people will figure out a way. It may have been Johto, I don't know. The point is, this is a very unsatisfying way for a game to end, and I've mentioned this before. I'm gonna keep mentioning this because it's so frustrating, and there's more and more ways to do it. Like, in Masters, somebody was running a really amusing deck with Spoils of War, summoning Enchained Souls with Chalice, and then playing the Shrieking Banshee to summon like a whole bunch more of those guys, sack those, another Banshee summons a whole bunch more, and then you just get like 20 or 30 life in one turn. That should not be possible. The best part of this game is the battle for the board. I know because I've experienced this best part in the limited formats. But whenever you start introducing these kinds of interactions, people will just look for ways to deny their opponent any counterplay. And this is exactly what this does. It just creates a situation where you just assemble some combo and then you just win the game regardless of board state, regardless of what else happened. And I just don't like these things. This should be a battle between two players, not one guy is playing solitaire. So now I got Word of Grace up here. I would just say, can we just scrap the win condition altogether? Has it actually done anything good for the game other than add cancer? Yes, occasionally it lets a deck like Hermelian Priests beat like Dragon Combo by just getting to 40 life, but at what cost, right? Dragon Combo, by the way, is just as guilty of this as 40 life gain, because it's essentially the same idea. So either in unlimited damage or unlimited healing, instantly winning. Both of those should just leave forever. Era Barrage, this includes the other distribute cards. They're all just too weak. They need to be better at what they do, especially something like Cannonade, which is relatively expensive. Should really be better. Either that or just rework the distribute mechanic so that, you know, if you play this against a big board, it does something. Because right now, Arrow Barrage is only good to a point. They're all only good to a point. Past that point, they get worse and worse and worse. Like, if you play it against a 4 health board, you kill everything. Great. You play it against a 5 health board, your enemy gets to keep 1 creature. Okay, if you play it against a 6 health board, they get to keep 2 creatures at 1 health. It's already starting to look bad. Any more than that, and Arrow Barrage just often does nothing. So, something's gotta change there. Try Angelica Sentinel. Whoop-de-doo, right? What a surprise that this one is ridiculous. I think one simple solution for this one is just don't allow this Sentinel to target himself. Because that's just crazy. He comes into play and he's already protected. Maybe Valor in general should just not be able to hit the creature that's casting it. But I feel like that would kind of make a lot of the other Valor cards worse. And this is the main offender. So I'm not sure what way we could do it so that this card gets punished, but not the other ones. One or the other, but definitely he shouldn't be able to hit himself, because that's just silly. One idea that someone had was that Valor can't put Might emblems on creatures that already have them. And the idea here is that if you have already a lot of stuff with buffs, like too many Valor cards would become bad because you can only distribute so many counters. That's an interesting idea, but I think that might require a slight rebalancing of all of them overall, since something like Companion of the Heavens becomes a lot worse, for instance, since that thing is only good if you have a lot of stuff to buff, but if you already got stuff with counters on them, that guy becomes just bad. Pick one of those 3, and then, I don't know, try it out. We can always revert it later, right? Prosperous Ruling is one of the cards I chose to highlight for give this card some love. My goodness, it's supposed to be the big order spell, and it does nothing. It's way too slow, and even when you get it going, it's so slow to get you any value, just compared to Grand Reunion, which is immediately getting you a creature, and they're just giving you freebies over and over again. Give Prosperous Ruling some love, man. New Horizons. Just cut this card out of the game. Word of Knowledge. This is supposed to be the Mono Wisdom card. It's the word card, which is supposed to support mono decks. This card does nothing to support mono decks. It does not get better the more wisdom levels you have. Whereas Word of Fire gets insane. Consume Spirit, well, it's not technically a word card, but you get the idea. It gets insane. Word of Grace also gets insane. A little bit less so after the nerf. When you get the idea, Word of Vigor got insane before it got nerfed. This card doesn't do anything. So you could add like Scry X on top of it, where it scries for the number of wisdom levels you have, or something like that. I don't know, but this word card just feels kind of redundant because it's just card draw, right? But wisdom has a lot of card draw. They don't need more card draw. I mean, yeah, it also cycles, but that means it's only really good in like Reanimator decks. But you've got Airship for that. Maybe a Word of Knowledge just needs a redesign. Vegetation Blockade. I don't think there's ever been a time in Spellweaver where this card was actually playable. This card, along with Word of Fires and Mantle of the Winds, all these 2 mana draw a card or return this card to your hand with a minor effect need to be made better. Oh, Curse of Risha, that's another one. Give these things a little bit more to work with. Master Hunter, this guy gets thrown on the list because I think Reach is potentially a degenerate mechanic. The idea with the support row is that you can put creatures there if you are not ready to contest the board, because you can't just put creatures on the board and hope all goes well, because your opponent can get good trades. If you play everything and you have no mana and your opponent has like a shield or a small buff, they could just crush your entire board. So the idea is, okay, you put some guys in the back or you run flying creatures to prevent that. When Master Hunter adds Reach to the mix, now that doesn't even work. Like, the big issue is if all your guys are in the support row and they get attacked, they can't block and help each other. They're just sitting ducks, flying creatures being the exception. But this kind of breaks the whole balance of the support row, and it just makes you win even more when you play, because your opponent can't even contest the board at all anymore. So possibly Reach is just bad. I mean, if you want Reach done right, you've got Tidal Wave, which just moves a creature, like, moves one creature between the rows. That's good. That's Reach done properly. But just passively giving it to multiple creatures, I think, is a recipe for disaster. Infernal Vultures. This card, I just want this ability to be redesigned to be Exhaust Vulture, pay X mana, look at a graveyard and shuffle up to that many creatures back to the deck, and then put that many Might Emblems. Why? Because I'm tired of clicking 20 times if I want to buff up my Vulture, right? I think everyone could get on board with this change. Also, I don't think the Vulture should be able to attack and buff on the same turn, because you often just attack with it, and then you only buff as much as you need depending on the enemy blocks. No, you should not be able to do that. Either the Vulture is eating and getting bigger, or it's swinging face, but not both. Same goes for Power Seeker, basically. It's the same idea. It should only be usable once, and not, like, each time you want to activate it. Undead Hydra. Why does this card cost 5 mana? Enough said. Infernal Tribute. If this is supposed to be like the AoE for Corruption, I'd like to see this at 4 mana. I mean, it's kind of powerful, and, you know, it is double Corruption, though. With this going to 4 mana, I'd like to see Sanctum of the Void cooldown increased to 4 as well. Because one of the reasons it's hard to want to run this is because you have Sanctum of the Void, and the Sanctum of the Void is like half of this already. So you can just wait for Sanctum to recharge, but if you make Sanctum a cooldown of 4, it becomes, you know, worse, and then Infernal Tribute at 4 mana gives Corruption more, like, effective removal, right? Just an idea. And finally, Mr. Diogen, he just needs to not be able to get back Shrines, because what's really annoying is that you can play him on turn 3 and he always gets you a card. Always. Because you can just get a Shrine. Not only that, you can even get Trigon back. Even though that's technically a 2 mana blessing, right? So just make Diogen, like, only work on creatures and spells, right? So you can't get Shrines back. So you can't just play him and always guarantee value. Other than that, I think he's cool. So, yeah. That's basically it. There's, again, more cards that could use buffs and such, but I just wanted to focus on, like, a select few, right? don't want to make this video extremely long. So let me know what you think. What cards do you want to see buffed? What other campaign cards do you think need to be nerfed? And why? Maybe you think Parallel Evolution is OP with Void Touch Subordinate. But if that's the case, that's actually Void Touch Subordinate's fault. Not Parallel Evolution's, really. So, hey, you can go ahead and add Void Touch Subordinate on this list. Maybe, if you want to. Maybe that card is kind of annoying. I kind of liked it in the beginning because it was like a really awesome blocker. But, yeah, evolving enemy stuff into subordinates that's really degenerate. Like, I got to see it in Masters. It was not fun. Let's just say that. It looked like the player on the receiving end just wanted to kill himself. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.